everybody, sir.
Sir. KBR, good evening.
Welcome all our today's participants and including our chief guest. So let's all welcome our 71 war hero, Air Vice Marshal Bhupendra, our BK Bishnoi sir, to share his experience today. Our JW Patak sir is on the call. He wants me to make a special announcement for today's about the today's one of the distinguished participant, wife of late Air Commander Benegal sir. She is Meera Benegal. She is on the line, sir. Bishnoi sir. She is going to listen to you, even your story also. This is the special thing for you.
Hello, Mrs. Benegal.
Madam, you are welcome to our webinar. So
I am also honored to listen to the talk by AVM Bishnoi. He was with my husband, late Air Commodore Benegal,
okay, madam.
in AEB, Aircrew Examining Board.
Okay, madam.
So Bishnoi knows me, but we haven't met for a long time.
Okay.
Mrs. Benegal, it has been a great surprise and pleasure for me really talk to you.
Benny was good friends.
And myself and my wife always remember you and my friend late Benny. And we really have not met for a long time, but we always spoke with great respect for him and you both. And today, it's a special surprise for me on this occasion.
Very good. Thank you. Because I am also very eager to listen to your work, what you did in the 71 war.
All right, sir. Now, could I start?
Yeah, please, sir. You can start, sir. Now, I once again request all our participants to welcome the 71 war hero who played a crucial role in establishing air superiority by destroying that Tezgaon airport, apart from so many transport aircrafts and other things, despite heavy gunfiring from the ground side, and particularly his strikes on the government building. So it is historical in nature. So we are all proud of you, sir, for your display of such a valor and professional skill, and leadership skills particularly. And I think throughout Air Force, you have been respected, honored, and deemed to be the one of the best fighter pilots of our Indian Air Force. We are all proud of you, sir. Thank you so much for attending this call. So you may share your experiences of 75 war, as you shared last time, 71 war, as you shared with 65 war last time. Thank you, sir. You may continue.
Mr. Rao, thank you so very much for saying so many good words for me, and I feel honored to be here this evening to talk to all of you. Now, last time, during the last session, we spoke about 1965 war.
Yes, sir.
That war was very different from what we had in 1971. Basically, because in 65, the war was imposed on us without any warning. We were not prepared, we were not ready. We didn't have enough squadron pilots even in this squadron on that period. So in hurried in 65, a lot of pilots who were on the ground duties, on the other jobs away from flying were brought in, but they were being out of touch. They were also stale in their flying. So we jumped into the war in 65 under those conditions, and the result was also very obvious that we did perform well as compared to the Pakistani Air Force, but we could have performed far better even in 65 had we more time.
Yes, but it has been proved in 71 war.
But in 1971 war, we got long time to prepare, as much as 9 months. And during these 9 months, we were able to assess the capabilities of Pakistan. We were able to plan our campaign, and we were able to establish our flying training to the extent where we simulated the actual war conditions during our long training. And each pilot had enough time in this squadron to fly and learn that what he should expect during the war and what he can do to counter the enemy in the war of 1971. Now, our planning in 1971 was on two fronts in Pakistan, Western Pakistan and East Pakistan. Yes, I was flying a MiG-21 squadron as a CO from Tezgaon. Now, we had no inkling till the beginning of the year 1971 of the war, but slowly the situation in the Pakistan, in fact, it was an internal matter of theirs, which started gathering adverse kind of conditions, and it was slowly heading toward a serious crisis. The crisis was that the Pakistan 1947 was created on the basis of a demand from Mr. Jinnah, at that time who was the leader of the Muslim League, for a separate country for the Muslims to be cut out from India. As a result, two Pakistans were created. Now, in 47, West and East Pakistan were created. West Pakistan, basically Punjab, Balochistan, Sindh, and Northwest provinces were included in that. And in the East, there was division of Bengal into the East and West Pakistan. East Pakistan went to the newly formed, created nation of Pakistan. It was sad that such a condition or such a partition had taken place on basis of Islam. But the Islam was not enough glue to keep Pakistan in the Pakistan. These two entirely different cultures who spoke different languages, who behaved, who wore different dresses, who ate different food, and spoke and lived a culture which was absolutely contrasting with each other. And as a bargain in that one, the Pakistanis in the West, especially the Punjabis and the Pathans, felt far superior because they had their linkage, Turks, Afghans, and other Muslims in the Middle East, whereas in the East Pakistan, it was basically their linkage was the Indian culture. They spoke the language which has come out of Sanskrit. They wore the dresses which were Indian like saris, and so on and so forth. So over a period of time, the Pakistan Islam did not keep them together. They found in the East that the West Pakistan was very much dominant. They were not getting enough funds for their own development, neither the jobs in the government. It was through and through a dominant Pakistan governed and run by the West Pakistanis.
Yes, sir.
They were not happy, they were very dissatisfied, and the first fissure in them rose, and Mr. Jinnah in 49 visited Dacca and announced that Urdu will be the language of Pakistan from now onwards, and that was not liked by the Bengalis because they had no idea what Urdu is, because the script was different. It was entirely a different language from Bengali. Now, that was the beginning of it, and slowly, the financial deprivations, the loss of jobs, not being able to get into the army or the air force or the government services, these differences grew more and more. As a result, Mr. Mujibur Rahman, who had formed Awami League in East, put up a 6-point agenda, which asked basically for the East Pakistan to be given the powers to deal at par with the West Pakistan. It was not acceptable to West Pakistan, especially Mr. Bhutto, who was the leader of the PPP party, the major party in the West.
Yes, sir.
He was also very ambitious. He wanted to be the president of Pakistan someday.
Okay.
Now, in 69, there was change in government. Ayub Khan had handed over the charge to Lieutenant General Yahya Khan, who was the army commander. And Yahya Khan in 1969 March announced that he will have an election and a new constitution for Pakistan. And for that, he announced the election dates also in somewhere in December 1970.
Yes, sir.
Now, during these elections, it just so happened that Mujib's Awami League won 167 out of 169 seats in the East and majority in the central government election for the assembly. As a result, now, legally speaking, Mujib was to form the government. He was called by Yahya to have a session and write down the constitution for approval of the National Assembly by the elected members. Now, this was not liked by the West Pakistanis, including Mr. Bhutto, because they wanted to be in power and remain in power, and so was the army also did not really approve of Awami League coming into power. So they started going round and round in a political manner to find some way where they could either nullify the election results or share the power with Mujibur Rahman in forming the central government. Now, Mujib was encouraged because he had won the election, he was in majority, and by all formed, he should have formed the government. So negotiations started that how to share the power. Many suggestions were made. However, at the end of it, it came no results. And the Pakistani in the West, Mr. Yahya, was the administrator of Pakistan at that time, decided to take a military action against East Pakistan, where, because East Pakistan was not allowed to make the government, a civil war had started. The civil war led to very high atrocities, a lot of murders and rape, loss of property and genocide. And civil problem increased to the extent that the rate of West Pakistan stopped running in the east. The Bengalis in the East Bengal regiments, the bureaucrats who were in the east, including police, railways, radio, and all that, had abandoned West Pakistan and joined Mujibur Rahman. Mujibur Rahman became the virtual president of East Pakistan. Now, to suppress all what was happening and to regain the control, as I said, campaign was run by the military to subjugate and suppress the violent civil operation which is going on, and to take over militarily the territory of Pakistan. Now, that was the basic problem in that. So this problem was not of India, it was internal problem of the Pakistan at then. And we suffered because then this crackdown on the East Pakistan by the Pakistani military started, and lots of people ran out of East Pakistan to India as refugees.
Yes, sir.
It was a trickle to start with, but it became a flood by month of March and June.
So, as a result, massive exodus to India. Yes.
The exodus was so strong and was so heavy for India to bear it, and it finally, by the end of June or so, it became almost 10 million refugees were in Indian territory, staying in the camps created by India, looked after, giving them food, shelter, and healthcare.
Yes,
it was becoming far too much, very financially, very heavy on Indian side of it. And India went all over the world. Mrs. Gandhi traveled all across the world to talk to all the leaders, including America, Britain, France, and you name it, and everyone. But no one came to India's help. They said only the ceasefire, stop everything, and after that, we'll see what we can do. So India, at the end of it, finally came to a conclusion that if something has to be done, it will have to be done by the Indians themselves. And that was intervention into the affairs of East Pakistan. Mrs. Gandhi was under pressure to support Mujib and his Awami League. And also, India was keen that by virtue of the majority given to the Awami League, a reasonable and more suitable government will be formed in East Pakistan to improve the relation between the two countries. Anyway, that all didn't happen. India, under the conditions, went, and when it was refused by the other countries' help, they approached Russia and signed a treaty of peace with them, peace and cooperation with them. That meant that if India attacks Pakistan and someone from outside attacks India, Russia will come to their help.
That's good.
Our worry primarily was China at that time. So we expected China or the Americans to intervene at that stage.
Potential threats, yes, sir.
So that put a stop on that venture. And with that, being assured that in the United Nations Security Council, Russians will use their veto if any unfavorable decision or resolution was being passed by the United Nations Security Council, which would have been immediate ceasefire and vacating the East Pakistan by the Indian forces. Now, we by then also had made up our mind that we had to see to the end of this venture that we got into it. So our training from the Indian Air Force, Army, and the Navy was brought up to the expectations, and the war broke out on 3rd December 1971, somewhere around in the afternoon at about 4:30, 5 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
That time I was posted at Tezgaon in Assam and was commanding number 28 Squadron, which was flying MiG-21 aircraft. Now, we had anticipated this war for the last as many months and trained ourselves well. So on that evening, when this preemptive strikes took place in the west on Indian airfields, the station commander, Group Captain M.S. Wallen, called me and said, "Bhup, the war has begun.
Sir.
You prepare to position your aircraft, men, and the equipment by 11 o'clock the same night at Guwahati, which was our forward base for operations.
Sir.
I immediately called my flight commanders and the men to the squadron and addressed them and informed them of what was happening.
Sir.
And told them that they could go back to their homes, say bye-bye to their families, and come back within 1 hour with a just single suitcase with enough clothing to last them for a month or so.
Okay.
I too went back home to my
Sir.
family, which was there with me in Tezgaon at that time,
Sir.
and said bye-bye to my family.
Sir, who was the flight commander?
The flight commander with me was Colonel Leader Bahal, S.K. Bahal, and Colonel Leader K.J.S. Gill. Goli Gill, we called him Goli Gill.
Right,
and
sir, right.
and Bahal was known as YNH, Young and Handsome.
Okay.
Now these were the squadron nicknames for them.
Okay.
And then I said my bye-bye to my wife and asked her that in the absence of the squadron, she was the head of the family at Tezgaon and should look after the other families of men and officers.
Okay. Good.
Our absence till we come back. And I also told her that every evening at about 6 or 7, we'll call you up, have the ladies in my place because there was no telephones anywhere else except the squadron commander's house.
Okay, sir.
So all the ladies used to assemble in the evening and
Okay.
we managed to get a call through. Anyway, so I went back to the squadron and AN-12 by then was positioned to airlift the squadron across to Guwahati. I led the first formation of MiG-21s and landed at Guwahati.
Same night you left, sir?
Same night, by 10:30 I was there.
Oh, on
And
time.
we were told at about 5:36 at that period.
Sir.
About 4 hours we
You got ready. Yes.
got ready and reached Guwahati.
Okay, sir.
Those days weather was very fickle in Guwahati. You used to get fogged up after 11 o'clock, and that was the basic reason of asking us to reach before that time. At Guwahati, when I reached there, I saw the station commander already waiting at the squadron dispersal for me. And I was very surprised. And it was first time in my life that a station commander had come
Senior
to
officer.
receive me. And
Sir.
that was not only the first time, that was the last also.
Okay.
So, Group Captain Mankotia, who was commanding the station at
Station.
Guwahati, I had known him when I had gone for my conversion
Okay,
at Chandigarh, and he was commanding the AN-32 squadron.
sir.
So he greeted me and took me to his office, gave me a cup of tea, and then he said, Bishnoi, the war has started. I got the orders for tomorrow morning's operation for you. He opened his drawer, pulled out a red folder in which there were operation plans and a map showing Guwahati airfield.
Okay.
Now this map was like any other map that I had with me already. It only showed where the Dacca airfield was
Okay.
situated. And that was known to us universally everywhere. Maps had marked with Dacca and the airfield. There was nothing new in it. I looked at all over the operation plan they sent it, look on the back behind sight also, and found no details of the target at that airfield.
Okay.
Because after all, the airfield is a very sort of composite thing. We want to know the ingredients at the
Sir.
airfield, where the squadron headquarters, Pakistan, the squadron headquarters are there, where the dispersal and the pen are there, where the lines of communication and the control buildings are there, and so on and so forth. I looked at the map, and then I looked back at Group Captain Mankotia. I said, Sir, now it's all right. You had told me that we are to attack tomorrow morning with the rockets and the guns, Dacca airfield. But what do I do after reaching there? Where do I find
Targets.
the targets, the aircraft on the ground,
Sir.
communication centers, and
Sir.
petrol dumps and fuel dumps and all that kind of thing? He looked at me. He probably being with transport background, he didn't appreciate what I was asking.
Acha, okay.
So he looked at me. He said, go there. When you go there, you'll find everything there.
Acha, okay.
I was really taken aback.
Yeah,
I said,
okay.
Sir, if I reach there and after that I pull up and start looking for the targets at speed of 900 kilometers an hour, and in those 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, I'll be exposed
To the ground firing.
to the ground firing and to the saber combat
attacks.
air
Yes, sir.
patrols, which surely will be mounted as we approached that place.
Yes, sir.
Well, he just shook his shoulders and said, well, Bishnoi, this is what all I have, and I have given to you. I have
Okay.
nothing more than this with me.
Okay.
So I said, sir, it's very important for me to know these things because I want to know it before I plan my attack so that I can allot the targets to the other pilots.
Yes, sir.
And we perform the thing with efficiency and with the result.
Accuracy.
With
Yes.
the accuracy. Anyway, he threw his hands up and I said, I requested him, please approach command and get this information before I take off tomorrow morning. It's
Okay.
very important for us, and it
Sir.
means not only successful mission, but also the lives of the pilots
Yes,
who will be additionally and unnecessarily exposed. And
Exposed.
this requirement of knowing the target on the airfield before the attack is the paramount important for me. He said he'll try it, but he never came back. And next day I came to know from him that even command didn't know what
Okay.
was there. That was not really true in the sense that Wing Commander Bhupendra, who was in the command, had interviewed some of the Mukti Bani Air Force
Sure.
people
Okay.
who had worked at the Air Force Station there at Dacca. And they
Sir.
knew all the details of it. And the command knew it. But some of the other...
Why didn't they share with them? Okay.
I did not know why they
Sir.
didn't share with us.
Hmm.
My only conjecture is that Manna Mardeshwar had interviewed him, but those interview details were not put into the operation plans.
Okay.
Those are kept only as a part of some investigation and the interviews
Left
which
it
were
there.
done. So
Okay.
they were tucked up in different departments and different places and
Sir.
didn't come to the light to the people who needed to know about it.
Sir.
Anyway, after that, he said, I have made all the accommodation arrangements for you. And he told me about the officer accommodation, airman accommodation, our hangars allotted to us. And then he said to me that you would operate from your office during this period of the war from the VVIP cottage, which was next to our dispersal. This time I was pleasantly surprised and little embarrassed too. I told him, sir, the war is on. Your station is one of the important stations. A lot of visitors, VVIPs,
They keep
come.
coming. Yes, sir.
They to come. And it would be very embarrassing for you to send them somewhere else in the town for the accommodation of the hotel rather than giving this place to me. And, he really surprised me what he did next. He got up from his chair, came to me, kept his both hands on my shoulder, and he said, Bishnoi, today there is no important VVIP for me than you and your boys.
He realized the importance.
Well, I may say he honored us.
Yes, sir.
And I realized for the first time that this is not a training exercise we were on. The
Sir.
game is much higher.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, I thanked him for everything and left for the mess.
Sir.
By then, the remaining squadron had also arrived and they were waiting for me in the place allotted to us for functioning for the war. Flight commander's office was in a dugout 20 feet below the ground surface
Okay.
for the security reasons. And I briefed him on what all station commander has told me. And also that we'll have to look for the target, search them, and then attack. Obviously, no one was happy about it.
Okay.
So we modified that we will not go over Dacca first and then look for the targets. I said we'll climb up about minute and a half earlier. And while approaching Dacca, we'll look for the target
Okay.
and select our targets individually.
Okay. So then
Anyway.
you did your best in that case under
So,
the circumstances.
no, hold on. I went back to my room.
Yes, sir.
And in the room, I find Wing Commander J.V. Gole, who was commanding number 4 Squadron, at Air Force with me, was in the room, and we were going to share the room. It was nice. I had someone to talk to.
Yeah.
And during the discussion, he told me also that next morning he is going to Dacca at taking off around 6:30 to give top cover to the hunter squadrons which were coming from Hashimara to attack Dacca.
Okay.
These hunters were planned to reach before me.
Okay.
So I requested JV, I said, please, if you find their saber caps on Dacca, do caution me because I'll be just 5 minutes behind you.
Okay.
And give me a call saying, Badmash, just Badmash. I
So
will
what
not
was
re-
their squadron, sir? Were they flying MiG or
So they were flying MiG-21,
different squadron?
the 4th squadron
Okay.
on that one.
Sir.
So he said, yes, sir, he will do it.
Okay.
Next morning, got up early in the morning and while I was still going to the squadron at about 4 o'clock in the morning, took Captain Wallen, who had also arrived at Guwahati as the operation commander to oversee the MiG-21 operations, called me. He said, Bhoop, there is a fog outside. Visibility is less than 500 yards. Will you be able to take off? He was rather worried because the planning will go haywire in case the flying units don't take off in time, because everyone was heading for Dacca.
Okay.
And everyone has been given a particular slot in which they should attack.
Okay.
So one unit not reaching there or reaching late will upset the whole planning and the sequence of events as planned. Anyway, next morning, went to the squadron and briefed the pilots, allotted the jobs for the day to the whole unit. And our instructions were to keep attacking Dacca as many times as possible.
Okay.
Further orders. Usually the further orders were to come after 48 hours.
Okay.
Seeing how the situation has developed.
Sir.
So as this, my target was Dacca, to attack it with the rockets and the guns at 0705 hours next morning, that is 4th December. We got ready, and I found that after the briefing, when we walked to the aircraft for the first takeoff, there was a lot of activity was going on. It was still about dark there, and men were at work, but it was very quiet. Okay. And as we approached, everyone stood up, leaving the job, whatever they're doing, saluted us and greeted us. They were looking very serious. I told them to smile.
Okay.
After all, heavens are going to fall. We are trained for it, and
yes, sir.
We are at it now.
Yes,
all will be well. So we walked into the aircraft. I got into the cockpit, put on my straps. The airman standing outside on the ladder handed my helmet to me. I put it on. He connected the RT, and as he was closing the hood of the aircraft canopy, he tapped on my shoulder and very politely said, "Sir, wish you all the best. I'll pray for you, and I'll wait here when you come back."
Can you remember the person, sir? Name of the person?
His name I don't know, but in the little articles which is written here and there, I call him Kapul Dudlani.
Kapul Dudlani. Okay.
I just remember that.
Right, sir. Right, sir.
Okay, and then we taxied out. As we were taxiing out and we reached the taxi track, on both sides of the taxi track, I found lined up with the civilians of the Air Force Station Guwahati and the squadron and the families of our boys lined up on both sides of the taxi track, waving and wishing us all
it's a greeting
best.
For the success.
Greeting and seeing us off with their blessings.
Great feeling.
You know, it was an experience for me. First time I felt connected my nation to my people.
Yes,
otherwise,
sir.
It was a routine in the morning. You go to work, fly, the men do their jobs, we all finish and go back home every evening. Anyway, this was a special occasion. I raised the canopy, waved back to them, and said in loud, which I wonder if they could hear it, that don't worry, we'll look after the nation.
My God, greatness. That is the greatness.
And then we went to the runway of the aircraft, to the runway of the airfield, and lined up. I had 4 MiGs which I was leading for the ground attack, and 2 extra MiGs with me to escort us. These 2 extra MiGs were carrying Ka-13 missiles, air-to-air missiles, to counter the sabers which we might find when we arrive at Dacca airfield.
Yes, sir.
As we took off, before that, the visibility was barely, I couldn't see even half the runway. And I was very conscious of the factor that it depends a great deal on our taking off and timing. So I asked squadron to be ready for takeoff. We opened full throttle and then started rolling on the runway exactly 21 minutes before 0705 hours.
Sir.
Because that was our flying time.
Well in time, yes, sir. On time.
All 6 aircraft took off together. It was a sight to be seen. The 6 aircraft getting up in the air together from the runway.
Okay.
And soon we were in the clear. The fog was left under us, and on top was a clear sky. And we had turned on course to Dacca, which was almost dead south to us. We were flying low, screaming over the ground, and then slowly we reached Garu Khasa hills, and I saw the peaks approaching, climbing along the slope. And after that, we were supposed to be entering the Pakistan territory. Soon after,